by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to another Tanakh review. My name is Uzi Alewi, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. And we are grateful to the Creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Grateful to be here another day because every day on earth is a blessing, and we cannot take for granted every morning when we wake up, because so many people haven't, they had things planned today and they didn't wake up. So we are grateful to the Most High God, and we pray that the Creator will continue to be with us all and bless us. Regardless of whether we call him Yehovah, Yahweh, Hashem, the Most High, we serve and praise a God who has allowed us all to be here, and I pray that the Creator will continue to watch over us and protect us. Giving due respect to the leadership of our congregation of Beit D.C.B, even my brother Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaschar, who does so much. And I pray that the Most High God continue to be with him and his family, his household, and bless him. I pray that the Creator be with all of us, with all the people online who constantly and on a weekly basis tune into our shows and our different things that we have going on and support us. We don't take any of that for granted, and we appreciate everything that you do for us. So at this moment, we're going to move straight ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, a man who's helped me out with a lot, sometimes not knowingly, and sometimes, I go to him for advice, but he's been there for me in some of my tough times. And that'll be none other than Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, the spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaschar, to the host Chief Uziel, to the Princess Chief, Cornine, Rabbinate, Marine, brothers and sisters, visitors, I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I start off with saying, Adonai Septadi Takufi Yagiti Ateaka, O Lord, undown my lips, and my mouth shall declare thy praise. This time I'll attempt to go through the Sidra called, highlight and review some of the Sidra called Ki Teitzei. Now, Ki Teitzei means, when you go out, or you can also translate it various ways with the prepositional, ki, your cause to go out. And that's a whole nother topic if you use various interpretations for that preposition. But I like to say that it covers from Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter, 10th verse, and goes to the 25th chapter, the 19th verse. And the Haftorah that goes along is very short Haftorah because, like I said, it's the 5th Haftorah consolation, and it goes along with the season that we're in. And that's Isaiah, the 54th chapter, starting from the first verse, going to the 10th verse inclusive. And in Psalm, I'll be doing that will relate to this particular portion, Ki Teitzei, is actually Psalm 32. Like I said, this is the 5th week of consolation that we encounter and referenced in. We've been told about ourselves for 3 weeks really harsh. And now it's to strengthen ourselves to try to make that change for the better, because we're better and we better than when we mostly act in most of our lives and times in relationship to our relationship with the Creator Himself. So I'm just going to highlight an overall view of some of the things that they cover in this particular portion, and then we're going to delve into a few points. So talk about a captive taken to be a wife, and talk about the inheritance of the firstborn, a rebellious son. Some of the topics covered. A man hanging on a tree, that's a criminal. Talk about disposition of lost property, assistance of brothers. The clothing should distinguish the male and female, what's permissible to wear and what's not permissible to wear, so to speak. A bird must not be taken with her young. It goes on about compassion for human animals. A parapet must be constructed. That's like a fencing around the roof. Most people had, well, for lack of a better term today, what we can identify with is like a ranch style home. Mingle seed must not be sown. All right, and this dealing with the land, mingling the animals, textiles in certain areas. And it talks about what we refer to as the zizis or the fringes on the garments in this particular portion. And then when a man charges his wife for a lack of fidelity, and then punishment for a maid lacking virginity. So that's it goes into those areas there. Punishment for adultery, punishment for fornication with a betrothed maid, punishment for rape, punishment for fornication, incest forbidden, and then it talk about who may not enter the congregation of the Creator. And this is a really interesting portion where we talk about who's not allowed to enter the congregation of God. And says, and then it goes on to talk about it points out two people who may enter, and they specify two groups of people. And when Edomite or Egyptian may enter, then the law of sanctification is decreed. Lewdness forbidden. Usury is forbidden. Talks about vows. Laws of eating a neighbor's fruits, grapes, pretty much is focused on there. Laws of plucking a neighbor's corn. So it covers a lot. Divorce. A man is devoted to his wife for a year. Talks about that. A millstone talks about a man himself, making pledges or pawning stuff. Punishment for kidnapping. And talk about Zera'at. Talk about pledges, wages to be paid. Talks about no one could sacrifice themselves and be put to death for another, which is a very interesting point in this particular chapter. It goes on about justice, charity, and stripes when a person must get corporal punishment. And then it goes on about how you treat animals that work for you. And then it talks about Levitical marriages, an immodest woman, unjust weights and measures, memory of Amalek to be blotted out. And that's how it ends up, the memory of Amalek to be blotted out. What is interesting is that you only have basically about 110 Pesukim verses in this particular portion, and yet you have over 70 laws. I think around 74 laws, commandments that's enumerated in this portion. This particular portion has more laws enumerated than any other portion, and it's important to say, okay, why be focusing on all these different laws, some of them that seem so far removed from us today that I can't, most of us cannot even identify with these particular laws. One of the things is that, we come into a time of getting ourselves prepared to stand before the Creator, excuse me. And as we are approaching this, and we're in the sixth month, the 7th month, we be busy ourselves and looking for that forgiveness from the Creator on high. And it takes time to prepare. And the only way to prepare to become a repentant individual, a more righteous individual, is that you must learn more about what makes a person not righteous. So you must learn more about the laws that you're not actually uh, doing that could say um, whether you're a good person or a bad person. A lot of people say, well, I don't do anything bad to anybody. And just from saying that alone, they didn't say, I do good by people. They didn't say, I assist certain things, because some laws, where we have the negative commandments, we have more of them than positives. So when people say, I don't do anybody any wrong, then that's might be true in their case, from their viewpoint. So because as far as I don't steal from that person, I don't say lie to that person, but we have laws of responsibilities that we must espouse upon ourselves. Do you give aid to that individual? Those type of things. So just staying away and saying what I'm not doing is positive commands. They enumerated out to 613, 365 positive. Negative commandments and 248 positive commandments. So it's things you must do, and it's things to stay away from. It's more stuff to stay away and not do than it is to do. So even in our law, when you're not imposed upon that much as compared to the things that you need to stay away from. So when it's open up here, I like to go into a little bit of the first portion of Ki Teitzei when you go out. So when thou goest up forth to battle against thy enemies, and the Lord thy God delivered them into thy hands, and thou carriest them away captive, and seest among the captives a woman of goodly form, and thou hast a desire unto her, and wouldest take her to thee to wife, then it shall bring her home to thy house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her. Now, several things she must do. All right, all right. She, shall shave her head. She and pare her nails. This is something she do, and she put on the raiment, put the raiment of her captivity from off her. So now, this is some of the things we tend to, look at. You figure, I got this woman like a caveman. I'm gonna cut her hair off. I'm gonna make sure I cut the nails off. I'm gonna snatch them clothes on, put some other clothes on her. No, the Torah, she's already a captive. There's some dignity still even left for a captive in this matter. And one of the things that we look at, and it goes on to say, and she shall remain in thy house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou mayest go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not deal with her as a slave, because thou hast humbled her. Now, it's so interesting that we're going to, and I'm not going to have time to cover a lot of this stuff, but I want to focus on a few of these insights before I go into the Psalm, because the Psalm basically only has about 11 verses that I'm dealing with. Is that what's very interesting with this area here is that she has, her dignity must still be intact. Now, you went out to war. How is it that your focus is on destroying the enemy and surviving to get home? That's your focus. Should be. as a soldier, as a warrior going to war? How is it that you got distracted, that you seen amongst the people that you bring it back, somebody that you fell in love with, and yet you left home with people of your own? You left home with people that you possibly could have fell in love with. We read earlier an exemption about a man that had taken a wife, that he's not supposed to be charged with war. And yet you go to war and picks up a woman, then you should think about, why is it that I had to go out to fight for somebody, to slay somebody, and then capture a woman? Psychologically or something. Our Lord, when we went to war, is a certain thing about a certain type of decency, humanity, even in war, a certain type of honor in war. Our thing wasn't to beat up a nation and pillage and rape everybody. That wasn't our thing. So the Torah know that here, when you have a mindset as a warrior, that you focus on eliminating the enemy at all costs. So with that mindset, now how can you transform into something to be so passionate all of a sudden? So much, oh, she looked good. You don't know this woman. You spot her. And then was brought out that she wasn't out there fighting. So it could possibly been that she already been a captive, because you wasn't fighting her. And you're talking about, so you seen amongst the captives, you don't capture somebody that might have been captured already. So instead of liberation, is more now, well, she become incarcerated, so to speak, with you. You seen her beautiful. It didn't say whether she seen you beautiful. You had desire for her. It didn't say she had a desire for you. And you bring her back and say, look here, what I see, I need you to change. And then wait X amount of days. Hopefully it might grow, your hair might grow back the same length. Your nails maybe look the same way. The clothes that you had on that attracted me to you. Perhaps, with the clothes I'm looking at now, might bring about a change. And besides that, you're no longer around your family. We ain't gonna be talking about, I'm gonna see my in-laws in this situation. Your in-laws and me have nothing related at all. We're not gonna be tight family with my in-laws. So that means that everybody you know, whether you have brothers or sisters, that is historically gone and eliminated. So when we think about how deep this situation is, how deep this law is, about the captain, I'm trying not to spend too much time on it, because, we could go into the sensitivity of another human being being forced into a marriage where they had no say-so about. And usually they say when man finds the wife, he finds a good thing, but do you find one amongst the captives making it good? So those are things to consider. And, so what we find here is that this individual woman has certain rights that's designated for by scripture. And when we look about one of our great patriots, Abraham, when he went to war against those 4 kings to rescue his nephew Lot, it said he brought all the people back. All the people back. So him and his feathers brought all the people back. He didn't want anything, money or a beautiful looking woman there. He wasn't even interested in all that kind of stuff. And we're supposed to look to the rock from which he was hewn. His mission was only to rescue a relative, a nephew, and safeguard family. That was his whole mission: rescue and safeguard family. So now this individual here, the Creator, through the prophet Moses, know how people think in war, because he's you know, you know, he was a man that was a general, so he know how people think. But also, even we read in the situation with Midian, he said, "You brought all the women back, all of them. These women that cause you problems." So this, when we look at this, it makes the man of the nation of Israel, you know, being controlled more by his passion than his reason, which he should be dealing with more his reasoning than passion, more of reasoning than emotion. So here it is that she again he marries this woman. But what's interesting is that after a while he found out that he don't want it, he let it go. He said not to sell her. So that's one law that's and you could discuss it more with your various teachers because there's so many other dimensions I could go into with this particular portion here. And then the next part talk about a man, two wives, you know, one hated and one loved. How do you have a wife that you hate and one that you love? All right. So now you got a lot of scenarios here, and we can find some things where we could put scenarios in this particular portion here. But anyway, it goes on to talk about, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be in the day that he causes his sons to inherit that which he had, that he may not make the son of the beloved the firstborn before the son of the hated, who is the firstborn. But it shall acknowledge the firstborn, the son of the hated, by giving him a double portion of all that he had, for he is the first fruit of his strength. The right of firstborn is his. So here it protects the individual rights. So back to back, it's three rights that are going to be protected here. And the third one we're getting ready to just cover a little bit. And the reason I'm just going to go into the opening part because these are some real serious issues that bring about domestic issues within a family. And so the firstborn, right? The firstborn, the child, the son has nothing to say whether you love his mother or not. You knew his mother before he was here. And so how does hate come about? And then how you be stuck with a woman that you really hate? What makes you stuck with a woman that you hate? There's a possibility that's going to come out in this particular sidra where you could come and be stuck with a woman that you really, really don't like because of your uh, lack of fidelity or your lack of um, observance, you know, and you're not living on a more godly type life that you could be stuck in a polygamous society with a woman like this in the Torah. And I'm not talking about so much even today, even, but more so then. And we're focusing on that you could be stuck with a woman that you cannot stand in a relationship. And we find out, and you say, well, why would you still stay in a relationship like that? Why not walk away? Why not let her go? So sometimes a relationship may not be healthy. And sometimes if the relationship's not healthy, somebody got to go. But sometimes, even in an unhealthy relationship, in a situation like this, the child have nothing to do with that. It's still your child. They still have a certain right. So this boy have a right to get a double portion because he is the firstborn. This was designed by the Creator. And the last one we're just going to touch on before let's skip through a couple of highlights some other instances in here. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son that will not hearken to the voice of his father or the voice of his mother. And though they chasten him, will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of this his city and unto the gates of his place. And they shall say unto the elders of his city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He does not hearken to the voice, our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And all the men of his city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of thee, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Now, according to tradition, they say this law never took place. I guess with a penalty like that, that's pretty rough. So, as I began saying earlier, you're talking about the first three deals with rights of an individual. And you said, well, what right do this son that's accused by his parents to be, stubborn, rebellious, a glutton, and a drunk? So, one, and it said they refused to listen to the voice of his father and refused to listen to the voice of his mother. Now, one, it don't say the words, it says the voice. And so we don't know what kind of words, what kind of talk of family or heart-to-heart talk the father might have had with the son. And, what kind of, words he put forth. It just said the voice. We don't know what kind of heart-to-heart talk the mother had with the son. It just said the voice. So what we find here is that a man's voice used to be more harsh, used to be more of a disciplinary. We hear the thing about the voice in Genesis. And, Adam listened to his wife's voice. It never said what she said. Say, listen to the wife's voice. With Mother Sarah, we read what she said. And God said, listen to her voice. Not to what she said, but to the voice. Here it is now. And that's it. And so we discussed that a little more in depth with your teachers, that we have this boy hearing the voice of his father and the voice of his mother, but he will listen to the voice of either one of them. So now men most supposed to be disciplinary, and women supposed to be more emotional, passionate. So that means that even the harsh talk and the anxiety in the father's voice was enough to correct the individual, or the compassionate soothing of the mother's voice was not adequate to change the individual. And they both had to come to an agreement that we need to take them to the elders because we can't handle them. Now, one thing, and hopefully I don't spend too much time on this. One thing is that we have this African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that's when the parents fail, and that's when a child happened to be an orphan. But in this case here, the child is supposed to be disobedient and doing certain things. So where you get the habit of drinking? Where you get the habit of being a glutton? And who food and who wine is he drinking and eating? And where is he living? How old is this child? He definitely can't be a toddler, but how old is he? And if he's really that hardcore, that rebellious, how do the parents, both of them, the mother and father, could put their hands on him and drag him before the elders? How could they do that if he's really that tough? So, and if they find it to be such, then the elders of the city will stone him. So now, did it say in these cases here, in several cases in Torah, we read in last portion that you had, in Shofar 14, you had judges and officers. You should make it on your gates. It said judges and officers. Why in a possible capital case like this, that they don't bring in and talk about the judges or the officers and talk about the elders? We left off at the last century talking about if a man is found slain in the field, they measure to the nearest city, and they don't call the judges or the officers, they call the elders. And you say, wow, that's something. Why call the elders? It seemed like I would have a crime investigation. I have the judges and stuff like that, the police force and all that. Like today, we talk about forensics. So the thing is that when it comes to a community, an actual community, the elders are very important in your community. They are the ones that actually ensure the healthiness of the community. It's not about how great they are in law, how much of an orator they are, but they live long enough to know what make a community healthy. That's how they wind up being elders later on, growing up in the community, and they can see certain things that's healthy for the community and it's not healthy for the community. One thing I always bring out, Solomon, who was the wisest man that ever lived, and being the wisest man that ever lived, he had counselors. Now, what can a counselor tell King Solomon when King Solomon is supposed to know more than any man, even Adam, and no man coming afterwards going to know as much as he know. So what advice can you give King Solomon? But yet we really had a council. He had the elders that grew up with him. And, Rehoboam had the council that was part of his father's council, and then he had his own ones that grew up with him. So the thing is, they know what is healthy to make a society healthy. Those elders told it wasn't a matter of law. When Rehoboam asked those elders, how should he rule the people? It wasn't a matter of law. It was a matter of concern and wisdom to make a community thrive. And they told him, the elders that was with his father, said, look here, lighten up on the people low. Give them a break. Ease up on them, then you'll be all right. But the young guy said, no, come down hard on them. Come down real hard on them. All right? And these are the ones that grew up with him. So how old can they be? When they talk about the elders that was with the council, that was the father's council, they gave him the wise advice because they knew how to ensure the community. So we find here that elders are important when in most cities, like up in North New York City, where I'm from and everything, they had a thing about knocking out elders, knocking out old people. Just walk by and just knock them out. For no apparent reason. When I grew up as a child in New York, in Brooklyn, that even the gang bangers, guys was in gangs, drinking wine in the hallways, they would say, oh, here come Miss So-and-so. Put that bottle away. Start chewing some gum. You don't want them smelling that wine on your breath. They should say that. A wine in the street as a kid. We say, oh, there's so-and-so the wino. You say, Mr. So-and-so. We was told to say, Mr. So to the wino. That's in the street. That lives nowhere that we know of. He doesn't move up and down the block, drinking wine, fall out on the stoop. Might be pushing. At that time, they had a rag cot. They used to push a rag cot around in New York City. Some of them, most of the people I might be talking to now may not even have a clue what that's all about. And I'm not really that old, but I mean, I got some time in, But these are some of the things that's how important the elders is in the community. And a lot of times, to safeguard the future of a community, you get rid of the elders. That's one of the things. That's why one of the things that they have in regard for young and old. Young and old, your future and the ones that will show you the way. All right. So this is one of the things here that the elders are important. And the right that I'm saying in reference to this young individual is that your parents, no matter how bad you were, did not have the authority in our way of life to go ahead and kill you. Even though some of us grew up with it, in our household where it said that I brought you in the world and I'll take you out. Well, in this way of life, you was told to go and bring that guy before the elders, because now we got to see what kind of parent you are. And what did you really say? Did the boy really understood? Did the boy have Down syndrome? Was he autistic? Was he a little slow mentally? How was communication? Or was your voice really the voice of reasoning? So these are the type of things. So that's the right that this individual had. And they said this was never implemented. But I'm just brought out that to open up this particular portion and talk about three rights of three individuals, in there, in this particular portion. All right, and then I'm going to skip over because it's just so much stuff to talk about. We're going to just deal with lost property. All right. I'm just going to touch on this, some of the openings, and then I'm going to skip on to the end. So, because there's too much to talk about. All right. One of the things says in 22nd chapter, thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or sheep driven away and hide thyself from them. All right. Thou shalt surely bring them back unto thy brother, and if thy brother be not nigh unto thee, and thou know him not, then thou shalt bring it home to thy house, and shall be with thee until thy brother require it, and thou shalt restore it to him. And so shalt thou do with his ass, and so shalt thou do with his garment, and so shalt thou do with every lost thing of thy brothers, which ye have lost, and thou hast found. Thou mayest not hide thyself. Now, what is interesting, finders keepers, losers weepers is not what we deal with in our way of life. But I like to focus on this here point, that if you found that, something that, of your brothers, at that time they use ox, they use sheep. This is economics, that's part of his work. And if you don't know who the brother is, you got to hold it and maintain it. So now, one of the things is that you don't know what it is, or you know who it is, and you hold it, you hold it for your brother and you must return it. But you must, first of all, take it out of danger. When you, and they said, hey, now who knows whether you saw it or not? Only God. A lot of times, you could be walking down the street and meeting an individual, guy passed right by you, and you walk in, eyes open, and you walk by, and the guy said, yo, you didn't see me, man? It's like, oh man, my mind was focusing on something else. And that'd be real. That'd be true. Sometimes you could pass something by or some person by, and your eyes are working, and there's no way that you shouldn't see them, except that your mind was focused someplace else. So in this case, the Creator is saying, don't even let your mind use the reason about, don't let your mind not be focused on your brother's, loss. So you must focus on that. You're the only one that, could say, I seen it or didn't see it, to another individual. But the Creator know when you say, I blocked that out. I didn't pay any attention to it. But it happens a lot of times. Say, didn't you see me coming over here? Didn't you see me come so? Well, I really didn't. I wasn't paying attention. I know what people say. And that be a real thing. So now you're being charged by our law. Then make sure you don't hide your eyesight from the individual. And then one of the things we got to look at, and when we're being charged by our law, where we're not supposed to hide our eyesight from the individual is this. Is that maintenance. An ox going to eat a lot. A sheep going to eat. You got to take care of it. And then they say when the brother come looking for it, you got to return it. But you don't return it with a bill. That's what the law is. First off, said we ain't talking about you billing him for the expense of keeping up this animal. Kept up this ox. You had this ox man for about a week or two. You got to feed him. You got to make sure you clean up the area where he's at and everything. Here's a sheep. You got to feed him, make sure everything's okay. Or it could have been some bunch of chickens or whatever, and said any lost thing. But with animals, with the property, certain things, it's a maintenance that you will incur. And the law is saying your incurring of this maintenance don't equivocate with what you must do and perform in this law. Now, we got other stuff, other laws later on, rabbinic things that they discuss, more in depth. So I leave that to the various teachers to discuss the level of responsibility. But according to this here in the book, your responsibility is just to make sure you maintain it, hold it, and when he come around, give it to him. All right. It's not even saying you go ahead and look for the individual. Rabbinically, they'll say you're supposed to even, go out there and look. So it's one thing where we see what's written Deraita, as opposed to the BINAH, what's written and what people, rabbis come up with later. All right. But this is important, thing that it don't tell you that you even go ahead and say, let me go ahead and put an ad in a warrant ad in the papers and stuff like that. It don't say that. Now, in the book. Later on, they, rabbinically, they would say you try to do stuff like that. But your responsibility. And then, like I said, how could I do a good service for a brother and I'm taking a loss? I'm taking a loss because I didn't have an ox, that I had to feed like that. I had a bunch of sheep. They didn't eat as much as the ox. And then I got to make sure the ox don't hurt itself, don't get injured. So that's what it means by keeping it as well. So, and I can't work that ox like it was my ox. I can't work him. I can't put him in the field because it's not mine. And suppose the ox mess around and impregnate one of my heifers. Who that calf belong to? So there's a lot of variables there. Because the ox mess around and impregnate the next guy's, and I said, dang, my ox. But he was in the heat. Nature took his course and he impregnated one of my animals. So now, who that offspring belonged to. So these are some of the variables, and that's why when we read law, there's a lot of variables in law that we must be able to discuss. It may seem far removed, but what we focus on is the right of ownership. Who owns what? That's what this particular law is. And to make sure that your brother don't take a loss at no cost, at no cost if you can help it. You might have a cost, but your purpose is not to make sure the brother don't take a loss with a cost. Now that's something to consider and think about. But we're going to just fast forward. We will skip over quite a bit, but I want to bring out about a bird's nest. We got about a woman's apparel. It's the only place in the book where they talk about women's wearing, men wearing that which pertain to a woman and vice versa about clothing, apparel, and stuff like that. And, I just brought out the text in the Hebrew just to read it and let y'all discuss it further because the text is very clear in this area here. Let me see the fourth verse in the text. Let me see where I'm at here. Fifth verse, 22nd chapter. So in the 22nd chapter, in the fifth verse, it says, Lo lidei kle gever al isha velo yelbesh gever simlat isha ki tova abba Adonai Elohecha kol al say ele. And ele is like a a word for use similar to a curse. Sometimes you say the abominable curse in the Hebrew, and you find those, which is another two words put together. But so when you go over that with the various teachers, you have to discuss that, because what it means there and the terms that's used there, is very important. It's the only place in scriptures where you read something similar to that. All right. So the last thing I want to bring out, and I want to just focus on about two more things in this chapter, and then I'm just going to skip on over and to the psalm pretty much, because just too much to talk about. It says in the 6th verse of the 22nd chapter, it says, if a bird's nest chance to be before thee in the way, any tree or on the ground with young ones or eggs, and the dam sitting upon the young or upon the eggs, thou shalt not take the dam with the young, thou shalt anywise let the dam go, but the young thou mayest take unto thyself, that thou mayest be well with thee, and that thou mayest prolong thy days. Now, one of the things is, it seemed very simple and clear cut off the top, but one of the things is, we say it's showing compassion. All right, so you make the mother bird go and take the eggs. That's easier to do, and not feel guilty about it, because the eggs haven't hatched. Eggs haven't hatched yet. So you say, okay, in one sense, that's easy to do because I'm making them leave the eggs. I'm just getting eggs. So there's no brood there. But when they're young, and you make the mother bird leave because the broods are already living, then you could still take them. Rabbinically, they'll say something different, but you could still take them according to the Torah. But now, do you have that same compassion on that same level? And it shows that that you know how it is to lose if you had to lose a young one or something, and you couldn't protect it, or a miscarriage. That sounds almost like the abortion situation, so to speak. But anyway, that's another story to discuss amongst the teachers. But the eggs is a lot easier to say, okay, I'm being compassionate. I'm gonna let her go, and just to take the eggs, because I don't see no relationship with the eggs and the mother, so she can't be all caught up into the eggs, because she don't know if the eggs gonna hatch and become alive. But then when you see the young, they're already living. She feeding them, and you make her leave and snatch them. Would the bird have more compassion for that, being they already alive, already animated? And then how would you feel about that? Do you think of any animals that not being desensitized, not having feelings? And yet people talk sweet to their dogs sometimes. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, and pat them up and everything like that. And you all right, and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, like down here in Florida, people take their dogs out. If they ain't got them in the yard or grass, they put some boots and stuff on their feet because the ground be too hot. There's a dog. Give them some boots and stuff. They put on their feet because the ground and the tar, it's out. Be just too hot. Could get 100 plus sometimes down here. So, some people care for the animal. And then in the Proverbs said, righteous man regards the life of his beast. How much more for that? All right, we talk about different things about, sowing the land with mingled food and stuff like that. But one more point I want to get out of here, because there's so much I could talk on. I like to bring up about a man bring a charge against a woman. All right. And it says in this chapter, if a man take a wife, and go in unto her and hate her, and lay wanton charges against her, and bring up an evil name upon her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came nigh to her, I found not in her the tokens of virginity. Then shall the father of the damsel and her mother take and bring forth the tokens of the damsel's virginity unto the elders of the city, in the gate. And the damsel father shall say unto the elders, notice he didn't say to the judges, to the elders. Community, it's a community situation going on here. I gave my daughter unto this man to wife, and he hated her. And lo, he has laid wanton charges, saying, I found not in thy daughter the token of virginity. And yet, these are the tokens of my daughter's virginity. And they should spread the garment before the elders of the city. The word they use there is simla. For those of simla. Today we use simla for a lot of things, a cloth, a garment, stuff like that, a dress. And the elders of that city shall take the man and chastise him. And thou shalt find him 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he had brought up an evil name upon a virgin in Israel. Is she a virgin now? She was a virgin. But they still call her a virgin here, a Bethula, all right, of Israel. And she shall be his wife. He may not put her away all the days of her life. That means divorce is out. Out. So now, what is rough on this situation here is that this man got a butt whooping. Got a butt whooping. And for 100 shekels, usually a guy got paid 6 shekels a season. 6 shekels a season. That was the average wage for an individual. So he got fined 100 shekels and got his butt whipped and don't have the authority to even divorce her later on. So hence, suppose he had his firstborn by that woman. They didn't say he couldn't marry somebody else. Suppose his firstborn happened to be by that woman. How is the relationship going to be? And how the relationship with the woman, how's she going to feel about it? After all that. And then her life was at stake because it would have been a death penalty. But who's dealing with the death penalty? Who's dealing with the capital punishment if it was any to be done? The elders and not the judges. So we got some things that we got to relate, and keep in perspective. Judges have their role. The elders have their role. We're just going to go straight to the 32nd Psalm here. So much stuff here, but I guess next time I might touch on one or two more. So we're going straight to the 32nd Psalm.
We are going to Psalms 32.
Yes.
Psalms 32, it reads, Let Dawid, Mashkil, Asherei Nesue Pesha, Hisu Hata'a. A Psalm of David, Mashkil. Happy is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is pardoned.
Okay. Now, first of all, I tell you the time of the season we're in at right now. All right. And since this is the season we're in, all right, the word, anytime you see the mashkil, all right, not only mean instruments, but it comes from the root word is sekel. A sekel is like intellect. All right. So now it's talking about the intellectual, the brain, so to speak. So when you hear mashkil, it's always like intellectually, how could this man, the intellectual recognize that? All right, so he said to the intellectual, all right, that, they talk about a man's sin being, being a covered. Now, who would want their man sin being covered? But only the intellectual could understand that. Only a man with some kind of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's why David, when he make this psalm here and speak about this psalm, he addressing the intellectual. That's what he's doing. Transgressions is forgiven, whose sin is pardoned. Later on, we're gonna find 3 different terms they use for sin. I'm just in case I might running kind of fast through here, and they use the word hate, awon, and pesha. All right, so so when they use the word hate, that's a sin that's not intentional. I didn't realize that was a sin. So normally, you bring up a burnt offering or something in reference to that. Awon, which is everybody say avon. They essentially pronounce the Y as a V, but that one there is a sin that you did it, and you recognize you did it, and it's a little bit more serious. All right. And you say, okay, now, and then when you get to the area of Pesha, it's like, I know it's wrong from the beginning. I just did it irregardless because, I'm just disregarding it. I just want to do it. So I know it's wrong. I'm just going to strong arm do this. All right. So one, even though you know it's a sin when you do it, you're like, I'm just emotionally getting driven to it. I really don't. I know I'm wrong. You feel the guilt, so to speak, but you know you're wrong. Where a pesha, when it's come to that area there, I know I'm wrong. I know it's a sin, and I don't give a hoot. That's the pesha. So those are 3 levels of sin that they use in this particular psalm here. For those that might follow it in the Hebrew, but being I'm speaking to a general audience, we're just going to see what we could grasp from the English. All right, continue.
Verse 2, happy is the man unto whom Yahweh accounteth not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile.
Okay, hold right there. That's important. All right, because when you talk about happy man who, where your iniquity is not counted by the Creator, do the Creator miss anything? He don't miss anything. He sees all, and since the Creator sees all, there's nothing that's missed. But and what it is that when the Creator, when he was talking about it, it's like, all right, I know you did wrong. I'm not going to charge you necessary for what you did wrong. All right, I want to look at how much you're trying to make a change. That's the difference. You did wrong. We ain't gonna bring this up. We both understand you did wrong. So I'm not charging with the wrong. I'm charging you down to see how much you turn around, how much you're willing to change, how much you're willing to correct certain things and rectify it. That's what we into. That's why when this season is, all of the stuff we're gonna read is focusing on how much you're gonna rectify your wrong. That's what repentance is. Like I said before, we get to the end of this chapter, it was only about 11 verses, is that it's not focusing on your guilt and your sin when we get to Yom Kippur. It's focusing on and working on your repentance. That's what you're doing. You're not even focusing on that. It takes strength to change, but it don't take no strength to wallow in, your iniquity. It takes very little to say, okay, I did it. What I could say. All right. There's the change that we're talking about. But go ahead, let's read a little bit further.
Verse 3, when I kept silence, my bones wore away through my groaning all the day long. For day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My sap was turned as the droughts of summer, Selah.
Hold right there. All right, right in there. All right. Sometimes when you say, look here, I don't speak about it. Sometimes you got to talk about it, but you don't talk about the other people. Some things is best kept between you and the Creator. Best kept there.
That's right.
See, some people, in certain religions, you say, well, I got to confess my sins to the priest. Don't you know how many people he got? He's a human being. He's a human being. How many people he knows stuff about? And then in a case of law, all right, you told him in confidence, But then he can't, according to some religious practices, he can't reveal what you told him in confidence. So is that looking for justice or promoting more corruption? That's why when we make a confession, our confession is to the Creator. Certain things you do, you make the confession to the Creator. And it's not, that covers certain shame in itself. It's not like that. Which more things that you could say. Well, when individuals, if you did something directly wrong with the individual, then you could address it, but you address it, as we used to say in the camp in BINAH, in a science with some knowledge, knowing. All right, some things you might say to an individual that you did to them, they had no conceived notion that you really was trying to be that devious on them. And some things like that is best left unsaid. But the Creator knows. And when you make your confession to the Creator, that's a whole nother area already, because it's the Creator wants you to see that you feel regretful and remorseful. It's not any new and found information for him. But let's read a little bit further.
Yes, verse 5.
No, verse 6.
Verse
Oh,
6.
yeah, 5. Yeah, 5. Yeah, you're right. I'm going
Verse
too fast.
5. I acknowledge my sin unto thee, and mine iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will make confession concerning my transgressions unto Yehovah, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sins, Selah.
Hold right. Right there. You see what it says, who he made his confession to? Of his transgressions? Transgressions, you know you're doing wrong. You already stepped out the box. But it said to the Creator. All right? That's what he's making that confession to. Because some things, guys, will never, ever let you go with. Ever. So he's making certain things, and some things is only against the Creator. Where men might do certain things where it might be legal, but it may not be just and moral in the eyes of God. We live in a society today with so much legalities, with a lot of stuff is legal, but it's not righteous and godly for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, let's pick it up from here.
It reads, verse 6.
Right.
For this let everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou mayest be found. Surely when the great waters overflow, they will not reach unto him.
Hold right there, right? That's important right there. All right. At a time when thou mayest be found. When is the time that God is most successful to us? In the season we get ready to come up to. That's when he's most successful to us. They're letting you know right then and there that I got a time marked on it in the year that you can approach me and get a fresh start, get a new slate. All right, and then I ain't gotta worry about the floodgates coming up on me. Everybody bringing all my sins overtaking me. All my enemies overtaking me. And this is what David talking about. The flood waters of Noah. It's like when you look at the flood waters of Noah, it was to wash away all corruption. David saying, I ain't got to worry about that because I'm already, declaring myself before you. And that's what it's all about. So, and it's like, once you admit your sin, your atrocity in the court of law, in the civil court, let's take a civil court of law. You say, yeah, I'm guilty as charged and so and so and so and so. What do the prosecutors say? Nothing. You silence the prosecutor because you took away his job. His job is to prosecute you because of what you did. And you say, I'm coming to court saying this is what I did. So the prosecutor over there got to be quiet. So now you just deal with the guy, the individual who could do something for you, one way or the other, help you out in life. And that's what the thing about confession is, that you silence the prosecutor. We read in the book where we had a priest called Joshua during the Second Commonwealth, he returned back to Israel, and it says, He was clothed in filthy garments. And it said, Satan stood there as his accuser. And the Creator had to rebuke the accuser, the adversary. And stood there as, as an accuser. All right? He already come in prepared. Look, this is where I am. I know I got the garments on. I know they ain't that clean. I recognize my sin. And this is what David's saying right here. So when we approach this particular month, when you start to admit your different sins and weaknesses and infidelities to the Creator, you silence the naysayers and the prosecutors that might come against you. You don't worry about them. And that's why I say you find in God in the time that He could be found. But read a little bit further.
It reads, verse 7, Thou art my hiding place. Thou wilt preserve me from the adversary. With songs of deliverance, thou wilt compass me about. Selah.
Keep on.
I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will give counsel, mine eye being upon thee. Be ye not as the horse or as a mule, which have no understanding, whose mouth must be held in with bit and bridle, that they come not near unto thee. Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but he that trusteth in Yahweh, mercy compasseth him about. Be glad in Yahweh, and rejoice, ye righteous, and shout for joy, all ye that are upright in heart. Hallelujah.
All right. Upright in heart. And they say you're doing everything all right, but you're upright in your heart. And that's one of the things when they talk about here that, don't be like the horse that got to be forced to do right. Bridle and bit. And the mule. If you got to be forced to do right, then are you a repentance? Sometimes we stop doing things because we can't do it no longer. So I used to be a good thief, man, but I can't steal no more because my skill ain't there like that. My sensitivity, I can't run as fast now either. I can't climb. I'm not as agile. So I can't be the thief like I used to, And so I stopped stealing. I mean, did you stop stealing or you was prohibited from stealing because we're caught up with you eventually? And these are some of the things we got to consider. Some people stop doing certain things because they're not able to do what they used to do. So they stop. All right. And, well, that might help them somewhat, but that's not repentance. It's just like, I just can't do that anymore.
Physically, I'm
and
not
then
able
other
to.
people that's able to do certain things to say, I'm not about that life no more. I'm stopping it. I'm ending it. Now, if I want to get down and dirty and greasy, I could do that. But that's not me no more. I want to change my life and hand it over. And that's what we're supposed to be trying to do at this point in time. So I hope you got something out of what I said. I know, and please go over that Sidra, Ki Teitzei, because just so much stuff in it to be discussed. And I know I'd have been there too long trying to, touch on little points here and there. But go over and discuss it with your teachers and various variables. And you got certain things to remember. Ends off with remember Amalek, and then an interesting too is about why they only mentioned about 2 people in the congregation of the Lord. 2 nations, Edom and Mizraim, and then to say who's a Moabite, who's the actual Edomite, even to say who's an Egyptian these days getting kind of difficult. Because we read about war, and most nations impregnate everybody that they conquered. They just go ahead and have these women and just make these babies and stuff like that, and leave them right there. And soldiers be going for months because it ain't like we're gonna fly over here today and be back in a couple of hours. We may be over here for about six months or a few years. We had a 2.5 tribe, or 2 tribes basically. 2 tribes that went there on an expedition with us, and they didn't get back for 14 years. Did they think they're going to be that long? Gone. How is they living 14 years? So some things to consider when we read Ki Teitzei, and Moses, understand what's going to happen and what could possibly happen. So with that, we got some out. I hope you got some out of what I said. Any mistakes by my own, and leave a comment in the chat. Support the D.C.B channel.
Hallelujah.
And all this, we repent.
Torah by Nasik. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. May the Most High God, creator of heaven and earth, be with all you. Shabbat Shalom. Hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom, early Shabbat Shalom.